Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Lipstick Leadership Legacy Podcast with your co-host JaneTaff the Sage and Deanna Vestal, your career catalyst. In this episode, we talk about why women entrepreneurs ignore their intuition. Take a listen. So I have this client who, is an amazing businesswoman, strong personality, gung-ho personality, just get that F done, and just get it, go. Real go-getter personality.
That's the mastermind of her success in that regard, right? But then when you are managing other personalities and you need them to help you go,
right,
that's where crucial conversations come into play. So I can totally see her calling you. I know when I was in that situation, I called you. So then what happened?
Well, so we had a great conversation because she had a breaking point last night. Something happened and she, she's like, can you talk or can we schedule an appointment? No, that's too far. Can you talk tonight? So I said, look, you're really close to me. What if I come over there? Because I know what would comfort me. What comforts me is a human person in front of me. And so, I was 10 minutes away, met her, and we ironed out exactly what she wanted. And so I was so excited because she is very open to starting with the personalities because it was really well uncovered for her that her personality doesn't inspire everyone. In fact, it kind of makes them scared and you start behaving badly when you're scared.
When you know that as a leader, what an amazing insight. So simple, but it is the most probable solution.
Right.
Outstanding that she understands this, the personality.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
She really understood that. And so we're going to start some sessions where we are running her whole staff through the personality assessments, my DISC leadership assessment. So she's going to get to know her leadership style, how her staff responds to that leadership style, and the staff is going to get the big bonus of personal coaching with their leadership styles and some few technical things that she wanted done in the office. But once you get past the you versus me and it's us, you start getting into production real quickly because you don't hire people who lack skills, right? We usually suppress people with skills because of our lack of communication skills or our lack of empathy, or as you and I have been talking about, our lack of understanding of what is their appreciation language, right? How do they feel appreciated so they can unlock all of that good skill and professionalism for the company's use and success, personal success and corporate success. And so
it's the top three. And when they are properly layered, it does start moving really quickly. Productivity picks up, company buy-in picks up, the ability to have crucial conversations or tough conversations with different personality styles picks up. There's just an automatic understanding there. But that initial work does take time. It does require an assessment. And then, of course, some expertise in guiding through what you've learned. Oh, this is exciting. Okay, then what happened? So that was last night or this morning?
That was last night. Like I said, she ended her workday really late, as all owners do, right?
Amen.
And the other thing is, you and I, Deanna, get to know a bunch of people. And really the last thing I gave her was a connection to someone else I knew in a similar industry because she was missing some pieces, very new to the industry. Like I said, it fell in her lap. And so she's still establishing industry standards and norms. And because I am not in her industry per se, but I know someone in the industry, I said, you know what? Is it okay if I connect you with someone who's been long time in your industry, one of the few women, in your industry, knows how to deal with all these male dominant personalities and other people who surround your industry. And she was like, really? I said, yeah, she's probably so willing to talk with you. But it's that special level of care, you know, that you and I have as practitioners, coaches, that really is different. You know, we're not just looking to check a box. We're looking to soothe the soul, answer the question, and have some doable steps. You know, it felt good practicing in my authenticity as a coach. So I really, really enjoyed that. But that was so much fun. And you know how it is. It doesn't matter how late you work when you're enjoying the work.
There is so much to be said in all of that, but let's start with the celebration for right now, the opportunity to engage on that level, the opportunity to connect. And I love how your mind thinks in threes, because each time is an opportunity to say, oh, yes, and 1B and 1C, all three being equally as relevant and important. And with your assistance, being able to properly layer those, because it does require an understanding, an assessment, and then some next steps processing for each one individually. But then they can build and stack on each other, plus bring a lot of peace, bring a lot of freedom, and create a structure from which we can grow. And both of us are so inspired when we are part of the growth process. Oh my goodness. And with the personality assessments, we're able to really engage from a level of collaboration, because it inspires self-knowledge, practitionership. So yes, it's about the questions, but it's also about which questions. And then it's about, you know, what level of approach would another personality really admire or respond to. You know, in a tough discussion, in the heat of the moment, and especially when you're working long hours and when you're under pressure, it is, you know, our automatic self comes through in conversation, and our attitude and what we ate that day and what we're thinking about all comes through. So when we are gifted the chance to actually think about what we're thinking about, and then analyze what we're thinking about based on our personality style, our type, our traits, and be led by a practitioner of such, the possibilities really are endless. I am so elated about hearing this news. I just like snap, 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 clap, clap, clap. Yes, amen.
Well,
hallelujah.
You know what's interesting about this? And then I got into other conversations today, which really kind of solidified it for me. And I really wanted to talk about it with you, Deanna, because the other thing is I'm noticing with women business owners, we do not trust our instinct. I heard this over and over again with my owner yesterday. And I thought, girl, what is your first heart instinct? And she said, well, my first instinct is to fire him. Okay. So
why is that not
document, then fire. Let's do it the right way. You know, because there were 2 incidences that she mentioned that were total, like, no, you have every right to fire this dude. Yet she was, well, what if this happens? And what if he says this? And, you know, and I said, all those things could happen, but you also are saying to yourself, for the health of my business, I need to let you go. That's what I'm hearing. So what about that decision doesn't feel right?
It's the step. I mean, it starts with what you observed, and it is among all of us. And given the right situation, I'm in the hallelujah, amen choir, right? Me too. I know. And like you said, wanting to talk with me because I am from that field and on a business side. So while I'm not an attorney and I'm not, you know, PSHR, which is a certificate in HR, but I am, or is it professional human resource professional, PHR. Well, at the same time on the business side, though, in terms of the business of documentation and separation.
Right.
Yes, yes, yes. I have a ton of experience in small business, large business, healthcare, social work, education, right? And the story is still, yes, always the same. The decision maker is plagued with what ifs.
Right.
And in the best case scenario, which happens more often than we might think, the decision maker wants the best possible outcome. The decision maker wants to value the contribution that the employee did give. And probably, and I'm making these numbers up, but from my experience, like 50% of the time, these same decision makers would love to see the skill set be redirected, or let me see, the skill is valuable. But if the attitude or the struggle in communicating, if that could be corrected, amended, then they would like to keep that person on.
Absolutely. Yeah,
And yet with the
because
pace of the day to day, it's too many questions and it just causes panic and pressure, right?
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
really nice when someone is willing to take the deep breath and go ahead and look at being effective, having their needs met and being effective,
yeah,
which is something you absolutely can help her with.
yeah.
And in the same amount of time, maybe even less time than it would take to let it iron itself out,
Right.
you can effectively see the change that you're looking to
Right.
be in your business and to have in your engagement.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. What did you want to talk to me about? I love celebrating
Yeah.
the moments.
Well, it was really about that. Just why is it that women in business do not trust their gut? Something's wrong. Something is wrong. Now, I did have her go through a quick exercise of checking why would you be suspicious? All facts being what they are. Why would you be suspicious? Is there a history of this? And there was some of that colors her response and things like this. And we all have that. So we must be aware of, dare I say, triggers or influences or filters. First, you have to have awareness. Next, if it's really true, what's happening by evidence in front of you, you're not making it up, is really what they are doing, regardless of how you react to it, if that's what they're really doing and it's provoking a suspicion, it's important to pay attention to that as a business owner, because before you know it, depending on the size of your business, they could be affecting, and it's not that they're stealing from the company, but they are affecting the productivity of either another employee or the salary you're paying them to be unproductive, ineffective, and disruptive, right? And I believe, when you address these issues, now it's out in the open. Nobody can hide, nobody can pretend you're pushing it under the rug, etc. And they can work on it, right? Like, what if I'm kind of clueless of my bad behavior as an employee and you let me go and then you want to explode on me, because that happens, because you've had it up to here and you can't take it anymore. And you tell me about all the things I've done in the last month. What is my only retort if I'm clueless and I had no idea?
I think if you tell me all the good things that I've done, or only all the bad things that I've
Only all the
done.
bad things, because I'm upset now because you've been messing up. What's
So
my
the
main
decision
retort?
maker is upset now,
Yeah.
hasn't said anything to the employee. The
Right.
employee keeps doing the same thing they've been doing, but they're showing up to work every day.
Yeah.
And then the employer asks or the decision maker asks the employee in for a meeting to say,
Yeah.
you're messing up. We're going to
Yeah.
need you to improve. What is that going to do to the employee? Oh, now it's going to make that one, maybe their skill set wasn't excellent or exemplary, but now they're going to stop coming to work as well.
Yeah.
Because they were going to lose, they're going to get upset. That ego is going to kick in, and you're going to have now a disgruntled employee, right?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is, why didn't you tell me when it first started happening? How are you, a employer, going to pile it all up and I had no clue?
Oh my
Right?
goodness, that's excellent. Well, I love that you also think you don't think like an employee, but you are empathetic. You can easily put yourself into a high productivity, someone who does work, someone who is consistent, and yet does not know that what they're doing is not acceptable in the way that it's bothering the decision maker. And I really value that. That is spot on. Yes, that is what it is what they're going to say. I see the challenge from the decision maker's perspective. And so I want to address that because I love the question, why are decision makers not easily or readily trusting their gut? And why are you seeing that as a pattern?
Yeah.
And I loved that question. Plus, where you went with it was to help the decision maker understand their staff person on a, baseline.
Yeah.
And I say, well, gosh, but as the business owner, number one, you're wearing so many hats, and the lines are fuzzy, and you don't know when you're taking off a hat and putting on a jacket, or it's all things at once. And even when you're hiring, let's say you have an accountant and the rest of the team that you, like maybe an HR person for payroll, a payroll service, but not an attorney, right? And you hear all of these stories. They're just terrible stories about how companies, how employees are. It's horrendous out there, and there's more fear than there is probable solutions. And when you're wearing so many hats and you have no experience in this specific important situation, you may, as a decision maker, you may not know that you are not trusting your gut. You have a gut, but you're doing so many other things that you haven't thought about. When the right person comes along, number one, thank goodness she had the right person in her back pocket.
Yeah.
In less than 30 minutes, the sun can shine out, and you might not have all of the answers, but suddenly you feel like it's a bright and shiny day because the expert comes in and asks you just a few simple questions and then says, why can't you trust your gut? What are you thinking? I'm thinking this, that, and the third. Good girl. Good for you. That's the right move. Now we can start talking about what the steps are to address that situation. And I can be right here for you every step of the way. Not only will you get to the outcome you're looking for in this situation, but as a natural byproduct, you'll also be blessed with more productivity at work, a stronger, more healthy team, and you may even get to enjoy a broader dynamic in the relationships among the leaders. Yes, even more celebration, right?
Well, it was interesting because after our entire conversation, she literally said, or we uncovered, because there's a lot of conversation that happens during my initial consultation with potential clients. And I said, what's really exhausting you? Thinking what they could be thinking. And you're actually not expressing what you're thinking and asking what they're thinking. Everybody's kind of making up in their head a conversation that's actually not taking place. So there's a lot of wondering. I said, you don't have the headspace for that made up conversation.
It's going to tire you out and you won't know why you're tired.
Yeah, because you in yourself, like they say, your stories can go in 100 directions. The stories in your head can go in 100 directions. But when you actually ask the question to the person who you are involving in your head story, they can give you the one direction that is their answer or their response. Right? Now, all the 99 other options go away for you because now you can actually follow one path. And so she was thinking about this. She literally fell back in her chair because she was tense. She fell back in her chair and she said, I can't believe I didn't think about that.
Yes.
And I'm like, there's a lot of other thoughts occupying that space. And so you and I talk about communication a lot. I mean, a lot. And we
a lot.
A lot. And so we get in these spaces, these conversations where we're saying, You're having a conversation with me. Can you have this conversation with that person you need to have the conversation with? Right? It's just like conflict. This is another form of conflict. You can resolve your question if you ask it of the person who has the answers you need. Whoa.
Well, the thing simple is it is. It is. And it's mind blowing and causes that sun coming out reaction. Plus it brings peace and maybe even a little smile, which fun is always nice.
Yeah. She started laughing.
Yes.
She's like,
it starts there.
I have been
and
ridiculous.
Simple isn't always easy, and easy isn't always simple. That's the treasure of working with a professional. That's the treasure of, there's one thing that I also think we have a perception of time. And then we have an expectation as well of how long something should take, will take, took the last time.
Yeah.
And that came to mind as well. Mm-hmm. I find that employers, decision makers, and professionals who have these kind of expectations and are used to things happening with some momentum and then consistency and pretty quickly, and that's a measure of success.
Yeah.
Need to know that this process, this initial is about 3 months. If you want to get the paperwork started and you do decide after just a couple visits between me and you, mm-hmm. that you do want to move forward with separation, mm-hmm. it's about a 3-month process.
Yeah. Yeah. And, talking about time and perception of time, that can also be applied with the conversation you need to have. You as the employer are always thinking it's going to take more time, but I think that's a story we like to tell ourselves versus framing the conversation with that individual and saying, hey, I need 30 minutes of your time to talk about this, this, and this, and actually listening, right? And actually having a conversation between two people. It's not a monologue from one or a complaint session from the other. It's really having an openness to address the issues. I noticed this. What do you think? How can we solve this problem?
Yes.
And a goal of solving whatever difficulty I am perceiving, either, as the employer. Yes. And being upfront,
Yes. When I was in staffing, I had 41 staff.
Wow.
And so these were middle management people. So, what people have an idea of what it looks like or what it takes to manage people across 6 counties and being productive within that. And the reality is that in that situation, it's always about attitude. It's always about a communication problem. Like always, it's never about whether or not the person's showing up to work, whether or not they're being productive. All of the, it is not, it's just, and it is, and it could, every manager feels the same. So then I end up getting those calls when it's time to have the conversation.
Yeah.
I end up getting, so then, and in many cases, the manager doesn't have a perception of having time to even close that door. So the step-by-step doesn't matter to them. They want me to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I do, right? And the juicy nuggets that are obtained from an employee in discovery when you're asking these basic questions and listening, it's so insightful. And whether or not that employee stays or not, the reason I get to look like the golden child is because now I can implement improvements in your team, right, way over there in San Jose or way down in, the Delta, and without even being there. But it's right, because I was willing to ask the direct questions and take the feedback.
Yeah.
That's it. That is the solution.
Yeah.
Step 1 anyways, in the first 3 months.
Yeah.
Of the approach to fixing this problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're looking to leverage that to then create a new culture in the company, it does not matter what size, how many staff you have. It is a 1-year process from that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And if the employer knows ahead of time then, and when 6 months happen and they have somebody else in their office and they're practicing this whole procedure all over again, they don't have to take it personally as many decision makers do. I handled this 3 months ago. Why has this happened again?
Right.
That's,
you just go into the flow of it.
Well, when we continue to build on the baseline that was established, the employer feels more confident when they get through this first one.
Yeah.
And the employee is either now on the team and productive, communicating effectively, or they're no longer there, which changes the dynamic at work.
Yeah.
And so if we keep the momentum going with professional development training.
Very important.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that has to be a corporate commitment. You know, I don't care how big your company is. My new client has, you know, a mid-size small company. And
40,
you know,
like 40 staff or less?
Like, yes, 40 staff for sure or less, but probably closer to 20, 25 staff. And that commitment has to be at the top. You know, the fact that she, the owner, has come to me and said, the fact that she said, I haven't hired you yet, but I told people I'm going to. And all of a sudden I had a lot of relief and smiles in the office. And I said, that's great.
Yes.
They recognize you want to make this work.
That's right.
Yeah. All employees want to see is effort from the top, but don't mess with it because it has to be consistent.
Yes.
No one is going to come in from outside of your company and, you know, wave a magic wand. It's going to feel like that when you're working together. But when you go away, that's when employees are really watching, are you truly committed to the process?
Yes.
And that's when you can really disenfranchise employees, because now they see that you thought you were going to pay for a fix, but they're going to pay with your inconsistency, you know, and you're going to revert back to your old ways. You didn't put in the work yourself. And that's where I think employees really get upset. They were kind of upset before, but if you implement a process that they are pinning their hopes on for change and improvement, whether, you know, and they could have loved you through this whole thing, they do become disappointed, right? They do become disappointed because, you know, the human heart is hopeful. And when you take away that hope with inconsistency, of course, we're going to deflate. Even though we loved you through the whole process, messy and everything, we are going to deflate in our enthusiasm for our jobs, and we're going to start looking. I mean, woo, you don't want that after you paid all this money to a consultant.
That's right. I love how we are talking about high-performing teams who get things done, who love their leadership. I love that that's the scenario here, because it happens in these environments.
Yeah.
And it's almost more soul-crushing when everyone's doing everything right and the emotion for support is there and it still fails. And you're like, but we communicate really well. Well, then why do you need communication training? Try not to think about it in that way.
Yeah.
Because communication training is broad. Professional development training is a broad term.
Yeah.
But with a strategist, we get to define the meaning together.
Right.
That's where true resolution can take place, at least in terms of providing that structure, again, for freedom.
Yeah.
If the boxes are well drawn out, we will, within 3 years, and I know that's a tough pill to swallow, sometimes in the best situations and especially with strong leadership and guidance, 3 years can seem like a long time, almost too daunting.
Yeah.
Don't want to talk about what will happen if you don't, right? Yeah. Because even in this scenario with high performers who want to work well together, 3 years of unchecked communication standards could destroy the company.
Yeah.
And really change a lot of people's lives for the worse in the process.
Yeah. Yeah, because, you know, you get destroyed. You get your enthusiasm wanes at the very least, but in the worst level of that, your now just disillusioned. You know, you're just biding your time because now you're just done. And who likes that? I mean, what's really interesting right now, even though we have experienced our pandemic, we're starting to open up here in California. There are so many jobs. I mean, all the people I talk to who are business owners are like, I can't find workers. I can't find anybody, and I'm trying to pay them, you know, 6-figure salaries. Nobody wants to take my money.
Yes, I'm telling you, the candidates, the high performers, distraught and disgruntled employees who just want to be in a good environment. When they come to me, they don't believe it. Yeah. When I tell them there is so much work, there's more work out there than you can even. And if you are willing to snap out of the construct of what wasn't working in your last or current job, if you are willing to get into a little bit of self-discovery, starting with an assessment or personality assessment, to fine-tune the environment you do want to work in. Yeah. And the contribution you actually feel good about making. Not just what you can do well, but what you enjoy doing. Yeah. And you won't need a resume. I've got a list, a book of business this long. I just make a phone call and you'll have a conversation if you're ready for that. Exactly. It's like, I don't know if I'm ready for that, you know? Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's partially the law of attraction. It is partially a practice toward positivity. Is partially the real awareness of yourself, like, how do I be around people? Right? And am I aware enough, not only self-aware, but aware of how I am interacting with people? You know, the deeper practice of emotional intelligence. People do not understand that. First of all, most people do not want to understand themselves really well. They actually want to excuse their behavior by saying, well, that's just who I am. I am who I am, whatever. As if that explains your bad behavior that could be modified if you chose to. The other thing is, we don't do that deeper self-discovery work, that inner work, in order to have the freedom to now look at my interaction with someone outside of me, to give them the grace and empathy that I needed to give myself during that work, right? And choose to flow with you rather than against you, in harmony, and not suspicion, not, you know, I am who I am and that's who I am. You know, and not use excuses. You know, I think we're at the same time too hard on ourselves, and then not hard enough. Because we allow ourselves excuses for our bad behavior, rather than digging deep and saying, what is it? You know, wherever I am, there I am. There I am. Wherever I go, there I am. And if you are experiencing, and we're talking about our listeners, if any of our listeners, and I tell my clients this too, if you have experienced the same thing in different locations, who's the common denominator?
I am. And I mean, I'll speak for me.
Yeah,
and
me too.
As a practitioner and as a guide, guess what? I have a real life outside of my practitioner work. And that's can absolutely be where this imposter syndrome comes in, where it's almost like you're frozen in between decision or indecision, or movement or inability to move, sleepy time.
Yeah.
Because that level of confidence, I should know more. I should be able to figure this out.
The should monster.
Absolutely. That's directly, for some of us, practitioners of self, and subject matter experts, it's directly tied into not knowing what to do next.
Yeah.
And what I hear you talking about is, do I or can I value the process to examine my beliefs, my communication patterns, and my triggers?
Yeah. And so I want to challenge everyone. Can you sign up for the bachelor's degree of self? Right? Are you willing to link arms with people who are in the practice a little bit ahead of you, willing to hear new information to aid your self-discovery, we're here for it. That's why we created Lipstick Leadership Legacy.
As a community, as a podcast, so we can chunk it out. But you're asking a big ask today. You're saying who's got the 1 year to 3 years to invest in themselves, which our Career Achievement Program is set for that. Spark Your Brilliance program is set up for that. And I love that you said that, because I was thinking, who out there is ready to make the step 1 commitment of self-assessment? All of these assessments, you know, I'm an assessment fanatic, right?
Me too.
Gallup Strengths Finders, the DISC assessment is still relatively new to me, although I love talking in the language of DISC. I personally am MBTI with temperament certified, and so I train and coach from that perspective. I love them all. Kobe, I could go on and on.
Oh, I know, girl. And
so who out really there is ready to just
and it's really just saying yes to you. You're not saying yes to us, because while we love the work, we had to work the work in order to love the work.
Amen.
Because the reason why we stepped into this was because we hated it. We hated whatever our environment was. We hated how we interacted in our environments. And we decided that there was a better way.
That's right.
Right. And we understand that you may be thinking, well, I don't want to, 3-year commitment. Forget all that.
Start here.
Say yes to yourself. Right.
Yes.
And explore. Join us in our communities. Hang out. We're not asking you to make a financial commitment. That will come because you are truly committed to yourself. You spend money as an investment for you, right? That's why we did it.
Yes.
I mean, we didn't even know each other back then.
That's right.
And
we didn't even know each other back then. I mean, but the investment, once it began, once the thirst for this kind of discovery takes hold, then yes, it is easy to make those decisions to invest. Sometimes I've been willing to put up more money than I really had, quite frankly, because I started to depend on understanding what I don't know.
Yeah. Your blind spots.
To figure out what I need. That's right.
Yeah.
I can see the problem. And I started to learn that what I don't know is wrapped up in this construct of who I am today, not being all that I could have access to with deeper examination.
Yeah. And we're all layers, I mean, here's what I asked my client, just kind of wrapping up that story. I asked her, can you forgive yourself for what you didn't know to do and lean into the work that you're committed to do now?
That's a great question. What was her body language then?
She got this look of relief and almost to tears, because we are the hardest people to forgive. We be forgiving other people all over the place, but the mistakes we've made, for some reason, we want to tie those rocks around our necks, right? And carry them and drag them around and wonder why we're tired, why we can't breathe, why we can't sleep, why we can't talk to people. So much of that is tied into self-forgiveness, and that comes with true awareness of yourself, where you can say, I know the little girl in me or the younger me did that, engaged in that, and I forgive her for what she didn't know and what she felt she had to do. I forgive her. Yeah. And that propels you into the next version of you, because all of a sudden you forgave the little girl in you or the unknowing version of you, so you can grow, right? We're doomed to stay at the age we are most emotionally stuck. And that's
resilient. The age we were most resilient in. Yeah. The thing about flight or fight, and when I started to learn that I even could have a relationship with my ego, because I did not know that our ego was there to protect us, to keep us out of harm's way. It's our ego that says, don't cross the street.
Yeah.
Hot, right? Don't touch it. That's our ego that actually remembers that and stores the information when we need it.
Yeah.
And when I started to realize I could actually have a relationship with my ego, and actually, like I keep saying actually, because it was so beyond me.
Yeah, it is.
Go sit down. I hear you. You're talking loud and the argument is all true. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to access another part of me now called compassion.
Right.
As soon as I get done with this, me, compassion, and empathy, which is the natural byproduct of examining compassion, will come back and get you and bring you back in so you can protect us again.
Yeah.
That probably took me a year I could understand it logically, and I wanted it with all of my competitive nature. Yeah. Like I gobbled up that information and repeated it on repeat.
Yeah.
It's only now, real talk, that it's directly related to everything else we're talking about today. As the relationship builds with ourselves, these other aspects and components come into play so that we have psychological safety to look deeper inside ourselves, to ask questions that are really touching the most tender, most PTSD influenced aspects of our childhood. So I'm going to say, in closing, an exercise to grab your phone or get into your old school photo albums that your mom and your grandmom, if you have them, any photo of yourself at a younger age, where you can put one hand behind it and one hand on top and say to that little girl, I'm here. Mm-hmm. It's okay.
Yeah.
We've got this together. I'll take care of you.
Yeah.
Thank you for serving me all these years. You were good back then. Mm-hmm. You're good now, but I got you. Mm-hmm. No longer have to respond with that little girl survival mechanism.
You got that right.
Because I'm here and I love you, and it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
And it's an acknowledgement. Again, it's that forgiveness of your younger version of yourself for taking care of you in the only way they knew how. In the only way they knew how. You know, when you grow up, you do grown-up things, right? And it's not a matter of age. It's a matter of inner maturity, inner growth. And we are here on the journey with you because we are still growing.
Yes.
We're committed to that. So, you know, we thank you for being engaged with us today in kind of our impromptu conversations, because this is where the juicy stuff happens. This is where we actually take care of things. And we're so excited to have you peeking into our conversation today. And hey, this is JaneTaff the Sage.
And Deanna Vestal, your career catalyst.
And we'll talk to you next time.